everybody. It's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces. My name is Leah Rosenthal, and I am the artistic director at Jolla Music Society and the Conrad. That was our president and CEO starting that clap, so thank you. Thank you, sir. And we are here with the man of the hour, our SummerFest music director, Inon Barnatan.
Hello.
So as you all know, this year, SummerFest is celebrating its 40th anniversary. 4 decades of extraordinary music making, artistic collaboration, meeting and making new friends, and memorable music making that beyond our wildest dreams. And so tonight, we thought we'd take you behind the scenes and explore the history that shaped some of the music that you're going to hear. A little insight from Inon about each of the programs and what makes this festival so special. We'll also play some audio excerpts from the upcoming concerts, and Inon will actually play a little tonight as a surprise treat. We'll talk about how this anniversary season came together and where SummerFest may be headed next. So tonight we'll focus primarily on the first 2 weeks, and then Inon and I will join each other again before the performance of the first Brandenburg programs on August 15th to then dive more deeply into the second half of the festival. So with that said, Inon, can you tell us, so SummerFest turned 40. So what does it mean to create a festival around an anniversary of this magnitude?
It's a complicated question because obviously I was very aware when I took this role of the history. I've been here. I was here. My first time was 2012, but I've played in SummerFest. But I've played for La Jolla Music Society even before. I think we met your first year.
We had lunch together.
16 years ago. So I was aware of the weight of history, but that's something that I think classical musicians are used to, because to take a sonata by Beethoven, for example, which has been played by every great pianist imaginable, recorded hundreds of times, you could just get crushed by the weight of that history, the weight of, oh, I have to measure up. Or you could approach it every time anew. You have to approach it as, okay, that history is kind of a bolster. You know, it's something that it also comes with the fact that people trust this festival. Artists know about it, so they want to come. And audience has been coming for many years. Some are new, which is just fantastic, and that combination is fantastic. But that combination of history and you have to just take it as a celebration rather than a duty. And I've always been a little bit reluctant, somewhat, to mark anniversaries, because every concert should be special, every festival should be special. How do you make something more special than special?
You make it special.
Well, you know, and I've tried to avoid in some ways composer anniversaries as well. Oh, it's 150 year for so and so, but with that said, this enabled me to think a little bit bigger, and this festival is the largest. Certainly, I've done.
We over 90
over
events. Over 100 events.
Oh, events.
Over 100 artists.
Yeah.
The largest, yes, but over 90 events.
Just in terms of size, in terms of ambition. And I think at its best, this festival really balances ambition and intimacy.
So what do you think, this is now, you're going into your eighth year.
If you count COVID, which we had a festival.
Yeah, we did have a festival. So what do you think, what have you learned that makes this festival unique, or what is distinctive about SummerFest? I mean, you're playing at festivals all over the world. What do you think makes this festival special.
I've always wanted to make and we probably should, make T-shirts for the artists that says, play hard, play hard.
Yeah. Yes. I think we have a reputation for that.
Yeah, well, because I do feel like people come here and they have a great time. The being with each other, the hosts are amazing. The people get really attached to and enjoy being with the people that host them, and it feels like family. It's kind of that addictive feeling when you come back to your chosen family. But on the other hand, for a summer festival, this is one, if not, in my opinion, the highest level music making of any summer festival I've encountered, in terms of the level in which people play, the prepare, every concert, the performances are electric. They feel like they could be. They don't feel like summer performances, and by that I mean like there are some festivals that you go to, especially ones that are in places that are as beautiful as this, where people come and they're like, oh, we'll just we'll just microwave this piece, and we all know it. So let's just do a short rehearsal and hit the beach. And that's the exact opposite of what happens here. People just come here, and why is a combination of things. This building...
I was going to say the Conrad just completely elevated our stature.
This building, this hall, the main hall, everywhere here, has really stepped everything up. You feel, when you're playing on that stage, you feel like you are on a global stage. The acoustic is world class. The facilities are world class. The staff is world class. Everything just feels important. So and then everybody around you, there is that culture of taking it seriously, taking it very seriously. I remember there was one cellist that came, and it was his first time at the festival, and he came in and he was like, oh, I've got to practice.
And he never came back.
Right. Oh, because he was just, he just didn't realize the level that's expected. And I remember, I always come back to this interview I saw with Graham Norton, the chat show host,
the
English,
UK based,
UK chat show host, and they asked him, "What makes your show so great? It's so much better than any other chat show. All the celebrities are telling all their juiciest stories. They're all having a great time. It's just a cut above all the boring ones." And he said, "It's not me. It's not them. It's the fact that I sit them all on the same couch. I'm not talking them one by one. I'm sitting them all next to each other, and they're all trying to outdo each other. Yeah. They don't care about the audience. They've been at another million things of theirs. They don't care about me. But they are being pushed by one another to be the best. Oh, you told a great story? I have an even greater story." And I think that's what happens here.
And alcohol, he does give
alcohol, yes, that does help. So that's and so I think that really elevates performance.
So I know you just mentioned you're not big on anniversaries, but we're 10 years then from our 50th, hoping you're still the music director at that time. Like, what do you see? Where do you see the festival going from now?
Gosh, I don't know. I really don't, because I feel like every festival, at the end of it, I feel like, oh well, that's it. I'm out of ideas. Yeah. And then every time something happens and it comes together, and I get inspired, and during the festival I get inspired, and I have conversations with musicians. And things pop up, and that's why I don't plan too much ahead, because I leave so much room for things to just materialize organically. So my hope is that we grow but I'm always I'm afraid of losing, because as I said, intimacy is a part, the feeling of family, the feeling of connection with what's happening on stage, the audience, all of that. And I think there comes a point in which ambition gets ahead of intimacy, and I think that they do have to really balance one another. So I do want to keep what we have, and I think if we keep what we have, that's already a huge accomplishment.
Absolutely.
What happens in 10 years, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of the festival, the theme, Making History. Can you talk a little bit about what was the impetus for the theme and how it came about for this summer?
Well, it came about from my struggle with the thought of what to do with this anniversary. Like, how do I mark an anniversary without being too specific, with leaving room for music from so many different places, so many different types. I also wanted to have a nod to the American 250th without, because everybody's celebrating it, and I didn't want to be literal about it. I didn't want to be, so all of these things, I wanted to have nods to these things, but still, how do you mark it? And I came to realize that history is something that you make in the moment. It's not just something you look back at. I remember there was my first festival in 2019, I started my letter in the brochure with a quote that I love from Mahler, which is, "Tradition is not the worship of ashes, it's the preservation of fire." And I think the history is something that has been made, and we struggle as classical musicians because even the term classical music is so inadequate to describe what it is. What does it even mean? What is classical music? It's so hard to define and so hard and it could be something that's written yesterday, it could be something that's written in the 11th century. What ties those two things together? What makes it that classical and not something else? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's already an inadequate term, but the idea of I wanted to explore how music relates to history, how composers have reacted to the world around them, events, to how the world has shaped music, how music has shaped the world in the history of the world. Mm-hmm. And so and as soon as I started thinking that way, and that's when I know I've hit on a good theme, because as soon as I hit on that, I'm like, oh, I could do this.
So many directions.
So many directions, and suddenly it starts to inspire you. And a good theme is supposed to not limit you, but do the opposite. It should limit you to the point where, it's kind of like somebody saying, oh, I don't eat meat. I'm like, well, now I know what I'm gonna make. It's just a little bit of framework, and you have all these ideas. But
and it's important for the audience, because then we go on that journey with you, and so it keeps us connected as we go along, versus sort of, it just feels like it keeps you in the moment.
And I've always been absolutely fascinated by the connection of the stories behind the music, but also the connection it has to the world, and the conversations that music has with itself across centuries. So how something written in the 20th century is inspired by something written in the 17th century, which itself was, and those things really fascinate me. And that's how I tend to program anyway. So to build a whole festival around it is really fun.
Right. Well, so let's have a little fun. Let's take that idea of sort of how the historical context can shape a piece. And would you play something and then sort of have us all imagine that we are in that time, or what was going on in the world, to give us some context while we're listening to it, and just see if the experience is a little different.
Well.
This is all a surprise for you, right?
Well,
Inon?
yeah, no, I mean, a little because I mean you're thinking about, and I think I might play two things. One is a short little thing, very very short, waltz
Okay.
by Chopin, and this is actually a waltz that's going to be played as part of a bigger program later on in the festival, as part of a program called Lost and Found, and we'll talk about it later. But what I want to what was exciting about this is that this waltz was discovered in New York at the Morgan Library only a few years ago. What was it, 5 years ago, something like that. There was a stack of things, and the guy who was suddenly recognized the handwriting, and it was like, it's a postcard-sized thing, and what we think it was is Chopin wrote this as a thank you to somebody, and as a kind of a gift, and he jotted down this waltz, and it kind of transports us into this. I mean, at least when I hear that type of music, it transports me into the salon. It transports me. It kind of makes me feel about all that culture around it. All these, this very sensitive composer who's coming and is the toast of Paris, and then he's coming and then he's giving you this thing, and it's just the most precious
Little gem.
It's like just a little thing that he jotted down, and yet that little miniature, it's has a lot of feeling in it.
Yeah.
So this is the New York waltz, I guess. Like, yeah, so that was. I actually gave the not the world premiere recording, but the world premiere performance of that. I'm very at the Morgan Library Gala. So the other piece is very different. So as part of, we will talk about opening night in a minute, but as part of it, we will be doing a movement from Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, a short last movement. Obviously, that doesn't really, it's not really possible for a solo pianist to do, so I'm doing it with another pianist. But what is possible is I will play a movement of one of the ballet that made him famous. This is a movement of Firebird. And imagine this young composer arriving and creating this music that just grabbed people by the lapel. It just grabbed people in a way that was not the ballet music that they were used to. And he wrote it for the Ballet Russe, a company that shaped music, ballet, and choreography and art. I mean, they were known for pulling together the best composers, the best artists, Ravel, Picasso, all of these people, and creating these incredible productions. And this was the kind of the epitome of that.
Right, should we just end right on that? All right, so let's dive in and let's talk about opening night.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah. So hopefully a lot of you have tickets for opening night because it is going to be so much fun and beautiful. Oh,
You
do you need
don't.
to
It's
take a
been
drink?
it's been sold out for months. So. Uh,
Why am I acting like I played? I'm like, oh, I need
Yes.
a drink of water.
that piece really takes you somewhere. Yeah, it's the Firebird. You need a water. Mm. So I was thinking, how do you start a festival that pretends to talk about history in the grand scale? And I thought, what if I did a little bit of a survey? So kind of take us into kind of an overview of the role of the composer as it developed throughout history. And obviously, it was always going to be incomplete. So the idea was to create the incomplete history of the world in 10 pieces. Easy task. But obviously, it was always going to be incomplete. But I wanted to take moments, certain pieces in history that were pivotal, and just really follow the narrative of how a composer went from being, a servant of God in the 11th century. Our earliest piece is by Hildegard von Bingen, and it's funny because von Bingen is not really a last name; it just means from Bingen. So her name was Hildegard, and a remarkable woman who was a nun who wrote. It was one of the very, very first composers that were recognized, that we still know about, that were attached to their music. Before that, a lot of Gregorian chant and things like that were not attributed, but she's one of the first known composers that we have. But she was also so much more than that. She corresponded with popes and with artists, and she was a remarkable woman, and we wrote incredible music. Still, this is before polyphony, so it's just single line music just with a drone. So we start there, and then we kind of jump through history. And she didn't think of herself as a composer. She was a servant to God, and she didn't really think of these as compositions. But and then so we kind of go through the different, Shakespeare's time and into the Baroque and the classical period, and we kind of touch on pieces where the composer becomes an entertainer and then becomes a celebrity, becomes a god, a witness to history, and then the kind of a force that brings people together.
All of this with a narrator, Fred Child, from, as you would know, from NPR Performance Today, as well as visuals. And so we'll kind of feel like we're in the concert hall where Beethoven performed, or we're experiencing war-torn Russia during Shostakovich's time. So it's really an immersive experience. So it'll be really interesting.
The idea is to really, Fred's job is to, in a very short time, put you in the time and place before you hear the piece, and kind of takes you on this journey throughout history. And we end with a big happy birthday to SummerFest, because there's a composer who wrote this happy birthday variations in the style of different composers.
Yeah.
So we'll take a little cheeky nod to their anniversary.
And then we move on to the following night to Vienna, 1900, and we do have a musical excerpt from that too, an audio excerpt.
I'll just talk about it a little bit before. From this big survey of centuries, then we zoom in on just one decade in the most important capital of classical music, arguably Vienna. And in that little window of time, we go, and music has a tectonic shift. It goes from Strauss waltzes, where Johann Strauss and everybody was dancing. This was the pop music of the time. It was just everywhere. And from that, we go to another Strauss, no relation, Richard Strauss, who wrote the Violin Sonata. And we hear the difference, how quickly the language of Romanticism changed, and it pushed and becomes richer and more. These kind of clashes and these incredible rich harmonies that make it kind of post-romantic. And then we go a step further, just a couple years later, with Schoenberg, who we know as this incredibly kind of caustic composer, but yet this is an early piece and absolutely stunning romantic piece that he wrote that sounds like you could hear how it comes from these traditions of Strauss and well, both Strausses, and yet it just develops this language that you could hear how that would lead to the next chapter. And very quickly after that, Schoenberg started writing more and more kind of dissonance and
You can definitely hear.
yeah, and there's a chord there that now doesn't sound, but it was people were outraged by that chord. Can you imagine a time where people were outraged by a chord?
Oh my, things have changed. Right?
This is and this is a phenomenal piece. It's actually a almost exact depiction of a poem about a woman and a man who are walking through the forest, and she's very nervous about telling him that she is pregnant with another man's child.
I was actually wondering, are we going to read the poem before? I've seen some performances where someone's actually read.
Do you want to read it?
No, absolutely not.
But it's really remarkable. It's one of my all-time favorite pieces, and we've assembled just the most amazing team to play it. But yeah, we have a little clip from it. Why? Well, I guess you'll have to come.
Yeah.
Really is and you could hear the poem in the music. You can hear her. You can hear them walking. You can hear her angst. You can hear his forgiveness. He tells her, and you can hear that all in this music, and it's really just just so beautiful.
And so then we move on to the Sunday to What If.
Yeah, What If is another take on history, but history that both happened, and we were trying to imagine what would have happened if these composers weren't caught short. Because all these composers, these masterpieces were written by very young composers, mostly 20s, in their 20s. The main piece in the concert is one of my all-time favorites. I've been trying to program it every year here, which is the Stabat Mater by
So
Pergolesi,
beautiful.
sung by a soprano and a countertenor with a instrumental. I sang this as a kid in conservatory and choir, and
I didn't know that.
yeah. Well, I mean, I just as part of conservatory, I had to sing, and I just fell in love with it, and it's always been one of my favorite
wow.
pieces. So I'm very happy to finally be able to do it here. And it was written by Pergolesi when he was 26 years old on his deathbed. So I mean, can you imagine? So you can't imagine what these people would have done if that's what they're doing at 26. Same with Lily Boulanger, one of the great promises of, and sister to one of the great pedagogues in Paris, Nadia Boulanger, who taught everybody from, every pianist imaginable. And Lily Boulanger died I think when she was 27. And she wrote this piece, beautiful little miniatures when she was 19, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. Gershwin, same, died young, and a very different type of music, but just hard to imagine that they've achieved so much. And then we have a great discovery, which is a Victor Ullmann string quartet, written by a Jewish composer in the concentration camp during obviously the Second World War, and it's just it has actually echoes of the Schoenberg, the kind of this really beautiful but interesting and harmonically driven piece that it was a big discovery for me, and actually for all of the musicians. They've never heard it, and they all fell in love with it.
So I think we have a little audio clip of something from the Stabat Mater. So that's this Sunday, and the whole program is gorgeous. So I hope I'll see you guys there. And then we move on to Wednesday, our first midweek Masterworks. And this is a wonderful series that we have throughout the festival where there is no intermission. And then afterwards, we all toast in the courtyard with some sparkling wine, with the musicians come out, and we have this incredible dialogue after the performance. And these series, it's really picked up, and people are now really embracing these Wednesday nights. And it's obviously the programming, and then also I think that sense of community that we have.
Yeah, and the idea behind it programmatically is that I take one masterwork, one kind of cornerstone piece in the literature, and contextualize it. So in this case, we have Schubert's octet, which is one of the pinnacles of his writing, and it's just a beautiful concert.
So let's, just for the because of time, let's move to the following weekend, where we have two incredible programs, Eastern Visions and Roots. And these are both really, I just think, beautifully crafted, unique programs that I'd love to talk a little bit more about. So let's start with Eastern Visions on the Friday.
Yeah, that's a really interesting program. I love. It's one of my actual favorite programs in this summer, because there was, in the 19th and 20th century, there was this trend with composers that they fell in love with their idea of the exotic. To them, the East represented something that they were not really familiar with, and some of now we can think of it as naive, but they were just, so everything that came from the East, whether it was the Far East, whether it was India, whether it was China, whether it was the Middle East, was just held such a charm to them, and a lot of composers like Debussy were introduced to it at world fairs. And so Debussy, for example, heard the gamelan ensemble from Indonesia and just changed his whole sound world, and he started writing pieces that tried to emulate that both the harmony and the sounds that he heard. We have also Lou Harrison, who did that many years later, American composer who became obsessed with the gamelan and wrote this fantastic trio that tries to uses percussion to try to imitate those sounds, but
With the piano.
with the piano and a violin. Really wonderful piece. We have Ravel's idea of the kind of the gypsy, the Romani people that a lot of composers were obsessed with, and he wrote the Tsigan, which is one of the most fantastic and virtuosic pieces. It's still one of his most performed pieces. Sometimes with violin orchestra, sometimes the piano. Then we have these wonderful, wonderful pieces by John Cage, who wrote for prepared piano. So the pianist has very strict instructions of where to put screws and nails and things like that in the piano. So when you play it, it sounds like some sort of Indian ensemble.
The piano remains unharmed.
Yes.
But we have professionals
It's actually going to be this
doing
piano.
this.
Yeah. No, it is.
Under
and
the supervision of our piano technician.
Yeah, and it's really, really remarkable. I love it. I'm glad we get to do that. And then we've commissioned this this new version, this fantasy on one of the most beloved pieces in the literature, which is Scheherazade by Rimsky-Korsakov. So we don't have a recording of that because it's never been played.
We could play some of the Ravel.
Sure.
If you'd like. Page turn. That's good. Allison. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a fantastic piece. The piano does come in eventually, but
Also, then we
I'll
have
be playing that one.
wonderful, and then we move on to Roots on Saturday.
Yeah, so this piece is about rather than the East. This is the kind of the influence of the Bohemian sound. So you have music by Dvořák and Bartók. Obviously, we know some of that. Dumky, one of the most famous and beloved pieces in the literature. Bartók Divertimento, we assemble our first orchestral piece of all-star ensemble of the best players to play this really phenomenal and electric piece. And then we have the first appearance by somebody I was very excited about because I was on the jury of the YCA, the Young Concert Artist competition last year, and was completely bowled over by Radu Ratoi, this accordion player, he was the one person that all the judges went, what? And just it was immediate kind of, yes.
What you think about the accordion, throw that away.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
It's magical.
Yeah.
Watching this young man play.
Yeah. He's a magician. So I'm glad that I was able to bring him over here. So and he'll play this fantastic piece with Tessa, who is just this romp of a piece. And then Pedja is first a great friend of mine who himself is from that area, will play the Balkan dances, which are also discovery for me.
Wonderful. And then to complete the weekend, we move on to Lost and Found. And I think I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the Loeffler Octet that we're going to hear on the program. We have a little clip of that too, because it's just a fascinating story.
That piece actually was the kind of genesis of this program, because there's a clarinetist who always been fascinated by unknown pieces or undiscovered pieces, and he went through the archives of the Library of Congress and found this piece by Loeffler, who was a big deal at his time. It was an American composer, emigrated from where was he emigrated from? I don't remember. But it sounds French. But but he wrote very much in the style of Brahms, I guess, that type of era, this kind of very romantic composer, and at the time was one of the most well-known and well-respected composers, and kind of disappeared from. Some wind players know him because he wrote a lot of wonderful wind music. So he found this piece that has received 2 performances when it was premiered and then disappeared. And he found this and he reconstructed it and recorded it and has been touring with it. So he's coming, and we're gonna have.
You want to listen? Talks a little bit about.
It's so rare to come across music this old that hasn't been heard in living memory, at least.
I know. Well, we have 2. No, we've never actually made it, and we split it in half this time, and we only have 2 more concerts to touch base on. So we should be proud of ourselves. Okay, so next we have American Legacy, that obviously speaks for itself a little bit with the homage to the 250th
It is,
anniversary.
although it does, but it actually refers to a kind of a continuation of what I was saying about the Library of Congress. So there was a woman called Elizabeth Coolidge who almost single-handedly she formed this commissioning not consortium, but commissioning body as part of the Library of Congress. She built the Coolidge Auditorium, which is still there, at the Library of Congress, and then she commissioned composers. And her ethos was that she wasn't going to just commission American composers. She wanted to enrich the lives of American people with music from everywhere. So she commissioned some of the most important pieces, and she was devoted to chamber music. So the most famous piece that she commissioned was Appalachian Spring by Copland. But she commissioned, the list goes on and on, not only chamber music, but it really is remarkable. So I wanted to pay homage to Elizabeth Coolidge, who really did create an American legacy. So she commissioned Prokofiev and Poulenc to write these pieces. Prokofiev was dedicated to her. And of course Copland. And then Wayne Shorter, this is a much later, this is right after Coolidge, of course, but he wrote a piece for the Imani Winds that was commissioned by the Library of Congress and us. So this was premiered here, 15 years ago, 10 years ago?
I think, yes, or more.
And they're coming, so I wanted them to play something as a kind of homage to the continuing legacy that Library of Congress and Elizabeth Coolidge have.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, and of course we have an all-star ensemble for the Appalachian Spring, so gotta come for that.
And then last but not least for this talk, we have Out of the Shadows on Friday, August 14th. I almost said October. And this is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful program that of some works that people probably aren't as familiar with.
Yeah, the names are slightly less. People know Debussy and Poulenc, but so I wanted to. One of the most important, unfortunately, driving forces in 20th century music has been the 2 world wars, and this concert follows the First World War. We start with, not in order, because Frank Bridge wrote this beautiful, beautiful lament where he could feel where things were going. And Debussy wrote this remarkable piece for 2 pianos, and you could hear the effect on the war on him. It's a gorgeous piece, but especially in the second movement, there's a moment where you hear the bugle, you can hear just it evokes this post-world beautiful but haunting scenes. And then we have the opposite, a composer, the Poulenc, one of one of your favorite pieces.
This is I kept asking Inon, are you going to program this piece?
Yeah.
This is one of the first times that you performed
Yeah.
with us, and I had never heard it, and it is spectacular. I played on my way into work.
Yeah, it's great, and it's exactly the opposite. Poulenc just went the opposite way, and his reaction to the war is like, we have to move on, we have to write, we have to find
Fun.
joy.
Yeah.
And this is the most joyful, thumb in your face, kind of ridiculous, wonderful music. So just complete opposite reaction to the war. And then we have an unintentional reaction to the war, because Korngold wrote this incredible piece. I think one of the great masterpieces of 20th century. He wrote it for Paul Wittgenstein, who was a pianist who lost his right arm in the First World War. And Paul Wittgenstein, not to be defeated, commissioned some of the best composers in the world, Ravel, Prokofiev, Korngold, to write him.
Wow.
So the Ravel left piano concerto, the Prokofiev left piano concerto, etc.,
All for
were
him.
written for him, and as was this piece, which is for piano left hand and ensemble. And I got to know it through my former teacher, Leon Fleischer, who lost use of his right arm for a while because of focal dystonia, and he used to play this piece.
Well, I think we have. Do we have this clip? Oh
I
no.
think we have maybe, which one do
Oh,
we
we
have?
have Debussy.
Debussy.
So
This
we
is
can
the
end
moment
on some music.
Yeah,
and
this is a moment from one of the haunting moments from the second movement that I was talking about, where you hear the bugle call. It's not. I mean, it's a great piece. This is not the second movement, but you'll have to come to the concert to hear that one.
Well, thank you, Inon. I mean, I've learned so much, and thank you all for coming before the festival to learn a little bit about the next couple of weeks. And we look forward to having some cookies and talking with you all outside. Thank you, Inon.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.